Chelsea are at crossroads, from Enzo Maresca to City noise to a stadium saga that won't go away, to transfer plans already mapped out for 2026. Everything is converging at once, and right in the middle of it all, a brutal trip to Newcastle that could define how this season and this project is remembered. But before we dive into the video, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. But if you have been following me for a while, you know the drills. Help your boy get to that 10k subscriber mark, and make sure you like the video and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive into it. Let's talk about the blockbuster of the week: Enzo Maresca, Chelsea and Manchester City. And one thing we can't afford right now is instability, because this story didn't fall out from the sky. It's layered, it's political, and it's a real stress test of whether Chelsea actually believe in these projects they keep selling us. Let's lock in the core report. According to David Ornstein, Enzo Maresca high among candidates Manchester City are considering in case Pep Guardiola exits next summer. Man City advancing contingency plan work for possibility of manager change. 45 years old Chelsea coach prominent alongside other potential options. That's not fan fiction, that's not Twitter noise. That's David Ornstein telling us City are doing what elite clubs do, planning ahead. And immediately alarm bell goes off. When Man City admires a coach, it's never random. They don't window shop, they shortlist very carefully. Now add the second layer, and that's the Chelsea side of the story. According to Skyscape, the attention behind the scene at Chelsea, and I think that has played a part in the report we have seen today. This is where things get uncomfortable, because talent alone don't trigger this kind of situation. Environment does. If everything behind the scene was calm, aligned and stable, this link wouldn't carry this much weight. Then come the structural explanation, and this is critical context. From Simon Johnson speaking on the Athletic podcast. Let's see how it plays out. Chelsea holds the card in terms of Maresca's contract, but also this is the reason why the structure is in place, that they don't have a manager in charge with all the power. If anything, the structure is the power, and the coach is just there to coach the team. This is Chelsea in a nutshell. Power isn't the manager, it's the structure. The coach is replaceable, in theory, and that's where I personally step in. I hate that, because this exact mindset is why we have been spinning circles for years. Now let's clarify the legal and contractual reality, because emotion aside, fact matters. According to Ben Jacobs, Enzo Maresca is understood to be a candidate for Man City job, with it possible if Pep Guardiola leaves this summer, as David Ornstein called. Chelsea declined to comment. Maresca is contracted until 2030, and the annual approach for him would need to take place via Chelsea and require significant compensation. Man City sources note Pep Guardiola is contracted beyond this season and refused to drown on speculation. Chelsea wants to keep Maresca, and a pre-planned review on his performance is set for this summer. Let's be clear, Chelsea holds the card legally, but contracts don't stop ambition, it slows it down. Now come with Man City specific insights, and this is where things start to look real. According to Fabrizio Romano, when Pep leaves, he will be involved internally to suggest next best man for Man City coach. The position internally has been there for Maresca. Man City sporting director is Portuguese, and Maresca has decided to change agent to Portuguese super agent Jorge Mendes. So there have been two elements. What I can say at the moment is Chelsea are not looking to get rid of Maresca at all, and are focused on this season. Maresca is under contract, and it requires really important compensation in any case. This isn't random. Pep fingerprints matters, Jorge Mendes matters, and sporting alignments matters. City don't just hire coach, they inherit philosophy, and Maresca is Pep's footballing son. But now let's talk about contingencies, because Chelsea have won. According to Fabrizio Romano, fans have been asking me, in case Maresca was to leave, who could be the future option? Chelsea have an appreciation for Liam Rossinier, who is already working in Blue Co Group and is doing a fantastic job at Strasbourg. It's just an appreciation game at this stage, because it's December. City appreciates Maresca, Chelsea appreciates Rossinier because they know him. And then David Ornstein doubles down on that point. There are many people who are already saying Liam Rossinier at Strasbourg is going to be Chelsea manager in the future, whether it's immediate, medium or in long term. And that shows their contingency plan, like all well-organized top club, will be in place in one way, shape or form. And here is my take. Contingency plan is smart. Living in contingency mode is cancer. Now let's talk about Maresca himself. Beyond tactics, beyond Pep comparison, apart from being tactically sharp, Maresca has been elite at managing kids, and I don't think that gets enough respect. This squad is not easy. The ownership model isn't friendly, the job isn't attractive. Power sits above you, player rotates every summer. You are teaching basic instead of redefining system. Most top level managers run from this. Young players will cost you matches. They will make mistakes. They will frustrate you, and that's why experienced managers like Luis Enrique avoid this kind of projects. And yet Maresca did it. That's why I will say this clearly. I don't know many managers at this level who would accept this job. Which brings me to the emotional core of the whole thing. I'm beyond sick of the instability. The ownership talk about long-term vision, but vision without commitment is just marketing. We finally land a coach who suits the project, and suddenly we are flirting with exit scenarios. Now, it's the moment to choose. Either we back Maresca properly, or City takes it, and he will tear it up in a system that actually protects him. And if that happens, that's on us. If it was up to me, Chelsea have to back Maresca. No hedging, no half measures, no review culture nonsense. We have finally landed a top one. Cherish it. But moving on to the stadium saga. The stadium debate is no longer whispers. It's loud, it's public, and it's turning into put up or shut up moments. Let's start with what was said and who said it. According to Jacob Stimber, Chelsea has been urged to put up or shut up on whether they move to Elscott. That line alone tells you everything about where the conversation is now. The patience around Chelsea's stadium situation is tiny. This is no longer about ideas, it's about decision. Then we'll move to the ownership angle. According to Matt Law, co-controlling owner Todd Bowley is thought to be a favour to a move to Elscott or an alternative site that would give Chelsea the chance to build a multi-purpose arena. That part is key. Not just a stadium, a multi-purpose arena. NFL ready, concert ready, commercially aggressive. And yes, a move away from the Stamford Bridge will require the approval of the Chelsea pitch owners, which remains the biggest and emotional roadblock in this whole saga. But this comes with a reality check. According to Newcastle Councillor, Chelsea likely main viable option is to knock down Stamford Bridge and rebuild it to a bigger 60,000 capacity stadium, likely meaning several seasons at temporary stadium like Wembley after Kingston and Chelsea Council has approved the Elscott development, which makes it very unlikely Chelsea can acquire the site for redevelopment. That sentence alone quietly kills the Elscott dream, at least in the short term. And honestly, I agree with Todd Bowley. We love Stamford Bridge, it's historic, it's iconic, it's home. But sentiment doesn't win modern football. Stamford Bridge doesn't give us freedom to expand, freedom to modernize, freedom to compete with the elites of the pitch. The site is boxed in. Roads, housing, railway, legal restrictions. There is no realistic pathway to turning Stamford Bridge into a world-class, future-proof stadium without extreme compromise. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Let's talk scale. Right now, Stamford Bridge sits around 40,000 capacity. Even a rebuilt version max out around 60,000. And that's after knocking down the whole thing down, leaving our home for multiple seasons, playing at Wembley, burning time, money and momentum. Compare that to what other top clubs are aiming for. Clubs like Arsenal are already thinking the long term about pushing beyond current limits with ambition of significant increased capacity in the future. That's forward thinking, that's strategic planning. At Stamford Bridge, we simply don't have the runway. No room to breathe, no room to grow, no room to dominate commercially. Modern day stadium are revenue engine, match day income, corporate hospitality, naming rights, concerts, events, NFL game. Tottenham didn't just rebuild their stadium for vibe. Arsenal didn't leave Highbury because they hated it. They did it because elite club thinks 20-30 years ahead. If we want to compete with City, match Arsenal and Spurs commercially, sustain elite squad without FFP gymnastics, then we need infrastructures that match our ambition. And Stamford Bridge doesn't give us that. And this is where the fan base splits. One side says Chelsea is Stamford Bridge, and that's true. But the other side says Chelsea must evolve or fall behind, and that's also true. The hardest decision aren't about right versus wrong. It's about past versus future. If Elscott is off the table because the council approves, then fine. But we can't keep pretending Stamford Bridge is good enough long term. Either we commit to a bold relocation strategy or accept years of disruption to rebuild a stadium that still has limits. But what we can't do is sit on the fence. Chelsea has been told to put up or shut up, and honestly, that's fair. We're a Champions League club, a global brand, a club with elite ambition. Elite clubs don't think small. They don't cling to comfort. They don't allow nostalgia dictate future. And I'm with Todd Bowley on this one. If we want to compete with modern giants, we need a modern home, not just a historic one. Now the question isn't what we want. It's whether we are brave enough to do it. But moving on, after the noise, attention shifts to the pitch, and more specifically, Chelsea transfer strategy. According to Matt Law, Chelsea are not planning to use the January window to improve the squad, barring an unexpected injury forcing them into the market. That tells you everything about how the club sees this group. This isn't inactivity, this is confidence. Chelsea believe the current squad under Enzo Maresca is competitive enough to carry us through the second half of the season. No panic buy, no short-term fixes, no January chaos. And honestly, that is refreshing. We have spent years throwing money at problems mid-season. This time, the message is clear. Trust the process, trust the structure, trust the plan. Now, let's talk about defense, because this is where things get interesting. According to Matt Law, other than at least one midfielder, Chelsea could sign a new centre-back in the summer, depending on exits and Correa returns form. The key word there is depending on. This isn't a guaranteed signing, it's conditional. Chelsea wants to see how Levi Correa returns from injury, whether any centre-back leaves, and how the internal option perform between now and the end of the season. And that matters. According to Matt Law, Chelsea could also make a move for a central defender in 2026. The club are likely to see how Correa returns from injury, whether or not defenders leave, before finalizing their plan in the position. Mamadou Sarr and Aram Asomino also needs to be assessed. Chelsea don't want another situation where we block pathway with expensive signing, only to regret it later. If one of these profiles proves ready, the club will adapt. If not, they will act, but on their own timeline. And here is the underrated part of this update. According to Matt Law, Chelsea has already spent the entirety of 2025 boosting the attack, which will further be aided by Quenda and Emega. This is massive. The attack is already planned, already funded, already future-proofed. That means no attacking panic in summer, no overloading one position, no blocking pathway for young forwards. Instead, Chelsea are shifting focus elsewhere, which brings us to the midfield. According to Matt Law, Chelsea planned a midfield summer signing to ease the workload of Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. Finally, someone said it loud. Caicedo and Enzo has been asked to do too much work, physically, tactically, mentally. And while they have delivered, this isn't sustainable across a 50-game plus season, especially with Champions League. Chelsea knows it, Maresca knows it, and that's why the profile matters. According to Matt Law, Chelsea has previously shown interest in Kobbie Mainoo and Adam Wharton. Two very different midfielders, but both make sense. Kobbie Mainoo is press resistant, intelligent, tempo controller. Adam Wharton, deep line organizer, positional discipline, physical presence. What this tells us is Chelsea are not just buying talent, they are buying function. Someone who can rotate with Caicedo, cover Enzo when needed, maintain structure without chaos. This is squad building, not headline chasing. Put it all together, the strategy becomes clear. January, calm, control, no panic. Summer, one midfield minimum. Defense, conditional, not guaranteed. Attack, already addressed. Youth, staying central to planning. Chelsea are finally moving like a club that finally understands timing. And whether fans like it or not, this is what serious long-term project actually looks like. But moving on to Chelsea versus Newcastle preview. With confidence restored and momentum back on our side, the attention turns to a huge test at St. James Park. And this is where narratives are either confirmed or exposed. Chelsea arrived in Newcastle off the back of two statement wins. The 2-0 win over Everton didn't just end a 4-game winless run. It resets the mode at Stamford Bridge. Cole Palmer delivered again, Malo Gusto made a statement. And for the first time in weeks, Chelsea looks composed, controlled and purposeful. Then came Cardiff, a 3-1 win in the League Cup quarter-final, a semi-final booked. And a moment that mattered just as the results. Enzo Maresca celebrating with the fan, pointing to the fact that this was the club's third semi-final since his arrival. That's not arrogance, that's belief. And suddenly the noise around Chelsea shifted. We sit fourth in Premier League, 8 points off the top, right in the Champions League conversation. Confidence is back, trust in the project is slowly being restored. And now comes the real exam. This game is massive for both sides, especially for us. For Chelsea, this isn't just about 3 points. It's about solidifying our top 4 position, proving Maresca identity works away from home, showing the recent win weren't just comfort zone results. With the Carabao Cup semi-final already secure, there is a growing sense that Chelsea could win their first domestic trophy since 2015. Momentum like this doesn't just come often, and it has to be protected. A win at Newcastle will do more than move us up the table. It will validate the direction of this team. Looking at the recent meeting, the story is straightforward. What this tells us is simple. The fixture is tight, physical, highly dependent on form and value. Newcastle has hurt us badly at St James Park. They feed off the atmosphere, press aggressively, and punish mistakes. And that has been our weakness there. But when Chelsea clicks, our structure holds. We have shown we can hunt them too. So this isn't about fear, this is about execution. This match is a measuring stick. Can Chelsea control a hostile away environment, maintain composure under pressure, show maturity when momentum swings? Because that's what top 4 teams do. Maresca has been criticized for inconsistency, but this is the type of game that changes perception. Win here and suddenly the narrative is different. Newcastle at home is never easy, but Chelsea don't arrive fragile anymore. This isn't just another league game, it's a test of who we are becoming. Now let's see if Chelsea are ready to pass it. And with that said, that's the end of the video, my friends. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. You go be.